At the beginning of the movie, we see Internal Affairs Detective Mason Storm pull up to the location of a supposed meeting between Los Angeles mobsters with a video camera that looks like he came to shoot a whole film. Just then, two black cars also arrive at the location, and one gangster smashes a nearby streetlight to keep their cover. Mason watches as more shadowy figures emerge and hears one figure promising his political support to the mobster Calabrese. The figure wants his political rival Senator Caldwell to be assassinated. Calabrese is cautious about such a public hit, but the figure insists that he wants to get to Caldwell before old age does. Mason is intrigued by the figure and tries getting closer to get a good shot. He has a malfunction, and while he tries to fix it, one gangster hears a sound and comes to check. Mason spots the man and attacks him as he comes close. He takes off running and the mobsters chase after him, but Mason is able to escape. We then see that the politician is Assemblyman Vernon Trent, and he orders the mobsters to kill whoever that was. We then see Mason's partner, Becker, receive a call from Mason, who starts telling him about Calabrese's meeting with the figure and their plans to assassinate the senator. Unaware that a few corrupt cops are listening in on their convo, Mason stops by the grocery store to get some champagne as he is in a good mood, when suddenly some thugs barge in wielding a gun and knives. They order the counterman to hand over the cash from the register, but the old man is too stubborn. He goes for a bat, but the thug shoots him dead. Seeing this, Mason calmly walks down on the goon and swiftly disarms him. The other guys easily get wiped out with some bullshitto moves and lay groaning at his feet. The last man pulls a knife, threatening to kill Mason, who drops his gun and urges him to attack. The thug hesitates, so Mason gets down on his knees. The man finally attacks, but Mason drops him and breaks his leg. The cops arrive on scene to clean up, and Mason gets to go home to his wife and child. In the car, he listens to the audio recording and swears he knows the voice of the stranger. He gets home and heads inside where he greets his wife, Felicia. Then they head to their son's room to watch him sleep. Sonny wakes, and Mason gives him the bear he got from the store. They both put Sonny to bed before heading downstairs to drink wine and get frisky. Unaware, a team of hitmen are on their way to his apartment. As the two start getting in the mood, the team of men burst in. Mason manages to kill one and injure another, but in the end, he and Felicia are gunned down brutally. On the other side of town, another team of men manage to kill Becker in his home. As the men begin planting evidence and gathering all the tapes around Mason's apartment, Sonny slowly approaches them. The men see Sonny and open fire at the poor kid, who takes off running and escapes through his room window. The men rush back to the van, and it's revealed that they are the cops, Quintero and Axel. We then see Internal Affairs Lieutenant O'Malley arrive at a hospital, only to see Trent there speaking with reporters and shedding crocodile tears about the attack on Mason's family. Also, there is Captain Holland, who sees them rush Mason past him but is very indifferent to him. He hints that Mason was a dirty cop, but O'Malley attacks him, warning him to not sully Mason's name or they will throw hands. Captain Holland insists that this is their investigation, but O'Malley is taking over the case as they have two cops dead with drugs involved. At that moment, a doctor reports to them that Mason has passed away. O'Malley says to himself that Mason was an unstoppable cop, but Holland reminds him that he got stopped tonight. Holland leaves when another doctor tells O'Malley that they were able to resuscitate Mason. O'Malley goes to see him, then tells the doctor to keep Mason's recovery a secret until he can get the answers he needs. O'Malley then stumbles upon the tape inside Mason's clothing and promises his friend to get him justice. 7 years later, Mason is in a coma registered as John Doe and is being taken care of by Nurse Andy, who casually assaults her patient, commenting on his junk. Soon after Andy leaves, Mason begins to twitch, having thoughts of his wife's murder, which causes his machines to beep. Andy notices the machines and comes to check, and is shocked to see that Mason has woken up. Mason is rushed to recovery. Meanwhile, Andy, following orders left on Mason's file, calls Police Internal Affairs. She speaks with Sergeant Goodhart and learns that O'Malley is no longer working with the department. He then takes her information and orders her not to mention it to anyone else. Mason is watching the news and sees George Bush as president kissing a pig and starts to feel ill. Andy comes to visit him and tells him that he will be famous as the first person to come out of a 7-year coma. But Mason tells her about what happened to his family and warns that he needs to leave as soon as possible, or they will both be dead. Andy thinks he is just delirious and leaves. His physiotherapist comes by for their session, and at that moment, Axel, dressed as a doctor, enters the hospital and asks for the list of patients. He gets off on Mason's floor and begins searching around for him and pulls a gun, but sees that Mason is missing. At that moment, a suspicious security guard comes by asking to check his ID, but Axel slowly approaches before killing the guard. Mason and his therapist are returning to his room when Axel calls the therapist over under the guise of needing help, but suddenly shoots him dead. He is then distracted by Andy, giving Mason time to escape through an emergency door. Mason uses a broom to help himself onto an elevator, barely escaping the assassin who comes chasing after him. Andy returns to the floor to see the two dead men and tries calling the cops, but the line is cut. Andy goes looking for help and encounters Mason in the elevators, who tells her what's happening. They get to the ground floor, and she pushes him straight outside and into the parking lot. She manages to help him into her car and speed off, escaping Axel, who is forced to watch them go. Downtown, Trent, who is now senator, is speaking at an anti-gun rally. He learns about the failed attack at the hospital and orders his men to blame it on Mason. Andy takes Mason to recover at a friend's home, where they see news accusing Mason of being responsible for the attack at the hospital. Trent and the squad of corrupt policemen are watching the news when the reporter announces that he has spoken with Mason, who has evidence that will shock the city. Hearing this, Trent orders the men to get everyone searching for Trent and Andy. Mason gives Andy a list of herbs that he needs to recover, and she sees him writing in Chinese. He gives her some bullshito story about learning from a Chinese master at an early age. Sure, Stephen. Later, Andy returns and shows Mason the news clippings of his and his family's demise. After this, Mason begins to dedicate himself to his recovery, using intense physical training and Chinese healing techniques to get his godly form of a body back in shape. Mason and Andy go through his files and locate a phone number to a retirement home where O'Malley is suspected to be. But when Andy goes to check it out, she learns that there is no O'Malley at the home and leaves her number. Mason continues to train, and who in the hell taught him to run like that? Jesus, the form is impeccable. One night as Mason trains, Andy comes by claiming she is bringing him a flower, but really wants to get her flowers picked. She jumps on him like a raccoon in heat, and he demolishes the cheeks, but post-nut clarity hits him hard afterwards. The post-nut clarity is so good that Mason gets dressed and drives to the spot where the graves of Sonny and Felicia lay. Andy goes to visit her nurse friend Martha, unaware that the team of corrupt cops have been following her. Andy gets to her friend's apartment, but a young man answers the door. Andy is shocked to learn that Martha was killed a few days ago. She leaves in a hurry, and the cops begin following her car. Mason returns to the home when he is suddenly confronted by O'Malley, and the two greet each other warmly. O'Malley was able to track Mason down from the number Andy left at the home. He also reveals that Sonny is actually alive, as he escaped to O'Malley's home the night of the attack. O'Malley then adopted Sonny and changed his last name to keep him safe. He shows Mason pictures of a happy and grown Sonny, and Mason thanks O'Malley for being a friend. The two head over to O'Malley's ranch, where he explains that he held onto a duplicate copy of the tape. He tells Mason that for the past 7 years he tried to solve his case, but was hindered at every step by those above him. After an attack on his mother that left her paralyzed, he was forced to resign. He apologizes for not doing more, but Mason thinks he did more than enough, and promises to get revenge for them both. Mason tells O'Malley to then take Sonny somewhere safe, as he is going to get the video recording from 7 years ago. Mason begins to go over the audio recording, and then recognizes the voice from the pier as now Senator Trent from his commercials. Andy soon returns home broken up over her friend's death, and Mason tells her the news about his son. The two are upstairs packing, but the team of cops are already inside the house with guns ready. They try to ambush the two, but Mason manages to shoot one man before escaping. The other cops open fire on the two, but when they go to reload, Mason takes them both out. This dude comes to introduce his knife to Mason and gets his arm rearranged, while another cop is sent flying over the rails. Mason grabs Andy, but even more cops open fire on the house, but just can't seem to hit Mason. They end up ripping the house to shreds, but Mason throws a grenade he pulled from thin air, giving them a chance to get out. They jump in his Jeep and escape the cops who open fire on them at every turn, but these stormtrooper candidates can't seem to hit him, and he even drives head-on into two who seem to forget how their legs worked. They manage to escape, and Mason spots some guys on the road with their car. Just like that, the guys swap cars with no issue at all. Andy and Mason then head over to his former home, which is being renovated by the new owners. Andy poses as a buyer, giving Mason the opportunity to retrieve his massive camera. Later, O'Malley picks up Sonny from school, and they rush back home. O'Malley then leaves a message for Mason at a nearby hotel, before he and Sonny hurriedly pack and leave the house. Mason and Andy arrive at the hotel, and she gets O'Malley's message saying to meet him and Sonny at the train station. Mason then spots the cops in the building, and he tries to hurriedly escape with Andy. But eventually the cops, including Captain Holland, have him surrounded. Mason then kicks the closest man through the glass window, and uses the chaos to grab Andy and escape. They jump in a waiting car and speed away, but soon, the entire police department is on them. At the train station, O'Malley purchases their tickets out, before coming clean to Sonny about his father being alive, and that they will meet again. Right then, 3 cops turn up, and O'Malley secretly hands the tape to Sonny. Sonny takes off running, and O'Malley tries stalling the men, and ends up taking a bullet. O'Malley then manages to kill one man, struggle to his feet, and take a bullet before knocking out another cop. Mason and Andy arrive at the train station just in time to see the cops chasing after Sonny, and he takes off after them. Sonny runs for his life through the city, barely staying ahead of the men. Just as he is about to be caught, Mason catches up with them and takes down the man. The two begin to fight, but Mason manages to easily throw him around and disarm him when he pulls a knife. Mason then realizes that this cop is Quintero, one of the men who invaded his home, so he swiftly and brutally breaks his neck. Sonny then runs to Mason, happy to see him, but is forced to escape as more cops turn up. Andy arrives on the scene, so Mason leaves Sonny with her and decides to go after Senator Trent. Mason breaks into the senator's compound. Meanwhile, he is enjoying a hot tub with some cheeks. Mason breaks into the home and ambushes the men as they are playing pool. Not wanting my recap to end too quickly, Mason decides to put away his gun so he can kick some ass. He then easily takes out the men with a pool stick. The last man, Axel, pulls a knife, but Mason impales him with the pool stick, killing the man that shot his wife. Also in the home is Captain Holland. It seems all the cops came for a sleepover. He sees a death taunt from Mason, so he pulls his gun and comes searching. He stumbles upon all the cops dead in the other room before continuing on. Mason frightens him, causing him to let off all his shots, before slapping him like a woman out of the kitchen. Holland pulls a fire poker and strikes at Mason, who grabs him and uses his own necktie to break his neck. Mason then goes looking for Trent, the mastermind behind the brutal slaying. He searches around cautiously, until Trent tries ambushing him but ends up showing the shotgun a good time. Mason drags him downstairs when the SWAT team turns up. Mason holds his gun on Trent, not knowing who to trust. Trent begs them to attack Mason and take him out, but just then a police sergeant steps forward, telling Mason they saw the film and know that he was set up. The cops then put Trent under arrest, and Andy and Sonny somehow arrive on the scene and reunite with Mason. The movie ends with footage of Trent meeting with the mob. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.